people are looking for answers. This show asks the right questions. Welcome to the McFiles.
And a good Monday evening, everyone. Chris McDonald with the McFiles Monday night, the Mac and Mark Spiritual Monday Night Smackdown. We're glad to have everybody. You know, we've just been doing this for a few weeks now, and everybody's got it on the calendar now, Taylor, that the two M&M boys, they're going to be on here on Monday night. So Mark, and Mac on Monday. I like the ring to that.
That's you know, I mean, little tag team spiritual Smackdown here. With that.
Absolutely. It's good to see you, buddy, as always. And I tell everybody this all the time. This is my brother from another mother. The Lord's really brought Mark in my life as a friend, and I appreciate him. I do, more than anything else. I joke around with him a lot, but seriously, he's a good friend. He's a good guy. Great book out. I encourage you to look it up on Amazon and Barnes & Noble, The Trump Prophecies. Updated and expanded version. Make sure you get the updated and expanded, because that's the new one that's just been out with some additional material that Mark wrote for it, and bless him doing that, and we appreciate you doing that for the McFiles family. Mark, good to see you tonight, buddy. Look, man, this has been, since we've just talked last Monday night, I feel like we've got probably 6 shows we could probably do and not miss a beat. We're going to try to get most of this in an hour. What we don't get in tonight, we'll pick it up next week, but I think the big elephant in the room, I want to jump off the bat with the Epstein situation. Very powerful. Billionaire Jeffrey Epstein gets arrested and indicted Saturday night. I was coming home from D.C. when I sent you the first text, and I got my buddy Chris Lemon. We had a special on earlier tonight. She was doing some investigating work for me, and I've heard some other things in the meantime. Now, our interview is going out this afternoon, but as of our interview, he's already went to the court. They unsealed. It was 2 counts. I expected it to be more, but I believe there's more victims than 2, without a doubt. But that's what they've got him on for right now. But Mark, it's beyond Epstein, and I don't mind saying this. I hope you don't mind me saying it. You believe, you told me, we were talking our conversation, that you feel like they've at least milked something out of him already. That this Saturday night was not so much about him, but it was about the far-reaching blocks and dominoes that are about to start falling, because there has been a plethora of people, Mark, that have been associated with this man, and we're talking big-time entertainers, political leaders, news outlet people, rock star musicians that are household names in this country, that was found in his black book. And that includes Tony Blair, Mick Jagger, Rupert Murdoch, among others. And there's more coming. I'm sure that's going to be revealed. You saw an earthquake in that. We're going to get to the earthquakes in a minute. But this was a political earthquake. This was the political shaking across America. And, man, I tell you what, let me say this real quick. Now, I'm going to let Mark talk, for all you folks that always email me and say, you need to let Mark talk. Mark's going to get to talk. You can get to talk a lot here tonight. Something shifted in the spirit realm Thursday on July the 4th. I was in D.C. I watched that speech. I watched it again just to get a little bit more of it. It was pouring rain. It was hot. I wasn't close, and there was only one Trinitron. I heard most of it, but I went back and listened to it again. And Mark, our president, shook the heavenlies with that speech. Something shifted over D.C., and an earthquake, 2 earthquakes, a flood now in D.C., and this Epstein thing, brother, something is astir in the heavenlies over this nation right now.
Absolutely. And what people have to understand is that this Epstein thing is huge. This is way bigger than most people can realize. Everybody, the naysayers out there that have been out there saying nothing's happening, they're getting impatient. Here's your first high-profile arrest right here.
Right.
And this is what's, Katie barred the door, because this is what's going to open the floodgates, which we'll talk about in a minute. And so between this guy and El Chapo, which gets sentenced on the 17th of this month. This is not a coincidence.
No, it's not.
That all this stuff's happening at the same time. These 2 guys alone, Chris, could literally take down most of D.C.
Without a doubt.
Most of the global elites all over the world, whether it's Hollywood, whether it's overseas, whatever. This is huge right now, the rest of this guy. This is what's going to open the floodgates for all the rest of the stuff to follow. And this just skims the surface of what's coming. because you figure this guy's only got them in blackmail and compromising positions, with the sex stuff or whatever it is. And so, I mean, it's going to lead to other things right here. This is what I believe is going to be the catalyst that starts this whole thing off. People have been asking, where's the arrest? Where's the arrest? I don't see anything happening. Folks, here it is. This is the start right here. Sit back, get your popcorn, put your seatbelt on, because this is going to be a heck of a ride, man. And, God has been given sign after sign after sign as to what's going on. And we've had 2 earthquakes. And so we've had 2 earthquakes in California, which was centered underneath China Lake, which is not a coincidence either. There's some people believing that these were not earthquakes, that these were actually something else that was going on in these underground dumb bases, deep underground military bases, that the cabal is being taken down. This is huge, Chris. I mean, I'm ecstatic to see all this happening and so then God gives another sign. He gives another sign in D.C. You were just there, July 4th.
Exactly.
And so he gives a sign. We now have flooding in Washington, D.C. So what is God trying to say to us right here, prophetically? God's saying that, look, the storm is upon us. It's here right now. And so the flooding's taking place, the old's being washed away, and the new's going to get ushered in. There's a cleansing that's taking place in Washington, D.C. right now. The old's going to get washed out. There's articles out there right now. We talked about the 3 rings of power on the last show, I believe it was. We talked about Washington, D.C., the military. We talked about London being the financial. We talked about the Vatican being the one world religion. There's now stuff coming out now saying that these 3 rings have actually already been taken down. And so will we see a sign for that? Could the flooding be a sign of that? Could be. So, again, we'll get confirmation as time goes on. But I mean, this is huge, absolutely huge.
Well, without a doubt, and I left D.C. Saturday afternoon around 2:30, and I was probably a couple hours out of the city, and my phone went off, and they were beginning to issue warnings for bad weather around that area, and I just gently looked up to the Lord during the drive and said, thank you, Lord, for letting me get out of there before all this stuff hit. But then I looked at the flooding, and it was interesting. It was on 7/7. Yesterday was the 7th. This flooding started last night. Bethesda, Maryland, where the hospital's at, the naval hospital's at, was underwater almost. I mean, they said that this was, again, record flooding, and it's rare. You don't hear a lot of stuff happening weather-wise in D.C. I mean, you get a few storms every now and then to go in there and maybe cause a little damage, but you don't hear Washington, D. itself. It's like tornadoes in general. Tornadoes hit cities, but it's rare that a tornado goes through a major metropolis city. Right. The exception has been this year because Jefferson City, which was the capital of Missouri, got hit with a major tornado. There were major storms around El Reno, Oklahoma again. Big, huge 2 to 3 mile wild tornadoes, 1.5 miles. Those tornadoes just devastated major cities. Mark, again, there's something shifting. There's something shifting. I remember doing a scope. I was on my way to Texas when those tornadoes hit Missouri, and I remember stopping and just telling the folks that day, I said, there's something astir in the spirit realm. I feel it. I sense it. That's why the weather is going crazy. That's why the turbulence is over the country right now politically, because at that time, the Mueller report had just come out. I mean, Mueller had just had that press conference where he was, trying to get Trump impeached. I mean, he was doing this. And let me just throw this date back at you about the 17th. The interesting thing about the El Chapo date is that that's the day that Bob Mueller is going to be in D.C. testifying before Congress, before both the judiciary and the Intel Committee. And it's no mistake that on that same day, El Chapo will be sentenced. And I've heard the same thing you have, that his associates and he himself has been singing like a canary, been singing more than Frank Sinatra on a summer day.
Right.
And I'm telling you, brother, these things never, I used to not understand this as much as I do now, how that dates and these parallels are not by happenstance. And I know in the prophetic, you have to look at these things in a bigger picture, that they're not by happenstance when they take place, are they?
No, they're not. And, you're dealing with a high-level witchcraft of some of this stuff. It's not by coincidence that D.C. was getting hit with rain the day Trump was giving his speech. And I think he made mention that his teleprompter actually went out.
It did.
And so you had that. And I got hit with storms here in the state of Florida. And he was to come on at 6:30. I had storms, and my power goes out all the time here anyway. My power went out 6:30. I started to have to watch the president on my phone. And so it came on 10 minutes later. These are not, these are not coincidences, guys. These are all things that the enemy's trying to do to stop the truth from coming out. These the weather's being manipulated. We know that. Every time I say that, I get attacked on Twitter. There's no such thing as that. Do your research, guys. It's there. I'm not going to go into all that. They're manipulating the weather. It's incredible times we're living in. I mean, it really is.
A couple of quick things on Epstein. Who do you think, and look, the obvious name in the room is the Clintons, because it's also reported over the weekend in Breitbart that Bill Clinton, actually it was True Pundit, there was a report out that at first that they had claimed, the Clintons had claimed they had only taken, quote unquote, a few trips down to the pedophile island with Epstein. Come to find out now there were 26 trips by Bill Clinton during the time that Epstein was free from here to that island. Mark, I've had our good buddy Liz Crokin on. I've had Corey Lynn on. I've had Cody Snodgrass, who knew the Clintons real well. And let me just mention Cody. Hadn't heard from Cody in a while. I need to pray for him. But one thing that Cody told me off camera, and I asked him, was this okay to share? He said, if you feel led to, you're fine. He said, but it happened. I mean, he told me that Hillary Clinton appeared to him in an astral projection type event, literally. At the time that all this, he was basically revealing the information about the Clintons and what took place at Waco and what took place at the situation at the Murrah building in Oklahoma, both events that took place during Bill Clinton's tenure, and they were tied together. There's reasons why both of these things took place. But she appeared before his bed twice in a threatening way. And people are out there saying, well, that's just hogwash. People can't do that. If you sold your soul to the devil and you've made a covenant with the devil, yeah, you can. And if you don't believe me, go back to Exodus, and those magicians that stood before Pharaoh performed the same miracles Moses did, with one exception, that when they threw the snakes down, they both all became snakes, but Moses' rod and that snake ate theirs. And God showing the devil, you might mimic me, but I'm going to get the victory. But let me get back to my question. Chris always does this in rambles. Who do you think is most at jeopardy at this moment? Where are we headed with this Epstein thing?
As far as the Clintons are concerned?
Well, Clintons, but other people. What are some other names you got thinking that's amazing?
I don't know. I looked at some of the list of names on there. There was a lot of royalty from England on there.
Yes.
And there was a lot, you're going to find out there was a lot of movie stars on there from years past and current. So there's a lot of names that are fixing to come out. I think the ones that are going to probably take the biggest hit right now are probably going to be the politicians right now, because this guy could probably dump most of Congress. And we're not talking just Democrats here. We're talking Republicans as well. So this is how they operate, guys. They get you in a compromising position here, and they blackmail you, and that's how they control you. And so, there's no telling who this is gonna open up or take down.
Well, I'll throw you two names out real quick, and it's on record. I mean, look, El Chapo's people, and there's been reporting of it in certain news websites that Paul Ryan's name, former Speaker of the House, has come up numerous times. And it makes sense, Mark. Paul Ryan stood in front of the president. He stood in the way of this immigration reform that the president wanted. Look, President Trump made it clear from the beginning, there's not going to be any amnesty given to any immigration deal that these Democrats bring to his desk. Right. Paul Ryan, every time President Trump would want to get the wall funded to do what he had to do. We had the House for 2 years. People they need to remember this. We had the power from 2016 to 2018 to get a myriad of things done. Yep. And
didn't do it.
And didn't do one thing.
Not one thing. So, but not one thing. They could have closed the borders. They could have done it all right there. They had the power to do it and didn't do it. Now, you got to ask yourself, why? Now, I want to go this for a second. October 13th, 2015, I wrote, "Don't be deceived, get in the fight," a prophetic word. And I just want to read this one paragraph. It says, "The Spirit of God says to Clintons, your time has come to an end, for you're both being omitted for the crimes you have committed. Hillary's is no great secret, and they will be her downfall, but Bill's will be exposed one after the other, and it will be a windfall. For this time, you will not escape the prosecution and restitution for the rape and prostitution. You thought no one saw, but I, the Lord, see it all, and now this will be your downfall." So the Clintons probably have the most to lose out of this, because they've been pretty much the puppets of running all this corruption worldwide, globally. And so, I mean, they're going to be the ones to take a hit. I think Hollywood's going to everybody's going to take a hit. Period.
I do too, Mark. I do too.
But El Chapo, if you go back to the other prophetic word, America, America, that I wrote before Trump came into office, it said that the border was a 2,000-mile demonic gate. And I didn't even, once again, your preconceived ideas here, even me as the one that God was speaking through didn't realize just how deep that one prophetic statement was, Chris, because we're now learning what all's been coming through the border. We're now learning what these politicians wanted to come through the border. Sex trafficking, human trafficking, the kids, the rape, the drugs. This is what's been funding stuff. This is what's been funding these politicians. This is why they're wanting open borders. They want free flow of product and free flow of people. They want to invade the United States, which we all know this, but we're learning all this stuff has been coming out now for the last 2 years, 2.5 years that Trump's been in office. The truth has been coming out. So that one prophetic word right there was deeper than what I realized, and God used me to write that. That's the amazing thing when you look back at some of these prophetic words when they're really beginning to come to pass, the depth of what God was saying there, we don't realize it.
Absolutely. You mind reading that again? I think it's worth reading again. Read that paragraph again. Folks, listen carefully to this. This is October of 2015. I want you to listen to this. It's very powerful.
Yep, October 2015. It is Spirit of God says, the Clintons, your time has come to an end, for you're both being omitted for the crimes you have committed. Hillary's is no great secret, and they will be her downfall. But Bill's will be exposed one after the other, and it will be a windfall. For this time you will not escape prosecution and restitution for the rape and prostitution. You thought no one saw, but I, the Lord, see it all, and now this will be your downfall. And I want to say this specifically as an encouraging word to Juanita Broderick, who's been on your show, who has been after Bill Clinton from day one after what that man horrifically did to her. This should be an encouragement to Juanita Broderick and all those that this man has done horrific acts to, and for all those that Hillary has done horrific acts to for that case. Absolutely.
So glad you mentioned Juanita. Lord willing, we're going to have Juanita on this week one night, and because we've reached out to her, she's going to get back to me. But yes, and we got another girl, Leslie Milwee, who's been on our show too. Leslie Milwee is the unknown victim because Leslie was basically assaulted by Clinton back right prior to Juanita, or maybe right after. It was during that same time, but her story never was got by the press because Leslie was so scared. Not really scared, but she didn't go public with hers until recently. And I'm telling you, Mark, I believe that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to have not only the satisfaction, but justice. And see, that's what people need to realize, what me and you've been talking about. This is not about revenge, folks. Yeah. I hear a lot of comments, and I hear a lot of things on Twitter, see a lot of things, and I'm sure Mark does too, that border on that we want revenge. Look, revenge is in God's hands. The vengeance is mine, says the Lord. What we're seeking is justice because, Mark, there's been victims. Look, I heard a figure over the weekend. We're talking tens of thousands. And the person I talked to said there is a chance it could be hundreds of thousands of kids that were trafficked and shipped through that island over the years. Because this ain't something that just went on for a few weeks, bro. No. This is 20 years, man. This is a decade, 2 decade, maybe 3 decade long event that Jeffrey Epstein was molesting and raping kids. And the only surprising thing about this indictment this weekend, and I shared it with you before the show, and I'll share it now, it was only 2 counts. I was like, just 2 counts. And it makes you wonder if they're holding out, again, was this just the shot across the bow to say, we got 2, but even more, and we're coming for you.
Whoever. Well, people have to understand on Epstein Island, there was not just rape going on or trafficking of kids. There's tunnels in that island.
Yes,
he has released pictures of the temple where they worship Moloch on that hill. And so when you look at this, and there's even been some stuff released, some pictures that there was human sacrifice going on, child sacrifice, whatever it is. Guys, these people are Satanists in the highest order, and all of this stuff is going to come out. And anybody who's made a trip to that island like that, they're not stupid, Chris. They know what was going on. Now, here's the other thing I want people to guard against. They're going to try. They've already tried it. They already started. And by the time you get this, it'll probably even worse. They're trying to drag the president in on this Epstein thing, and it's not going to work. He never went to that island, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know. Everything I've seen so far, he never went to that island. But they're going to try and drag him and his family. Once again, they've been told by the cabal, this is what you need to shoot across the bow to try to shut him up. And it's not going to work. So don't fall for the fake news when you hear this garbage. That's what it is trash.
Yeah, and speaking of fake news and fake lawyers, Lanny Davis is out there running his mouth today, coming to the defense of his former boss, Bill Clinton. Lanny Davis, the same one that lied to CNN about certain notes he had found from Michael Avenatti, who is his client, who's about to serve about 30 to 40 years for fraud and a number of things, this scumbag lawyer that even a porn actress fires you. It's pretty bad. Your career has pretty much hit rock bottom when the porn actress fires you because of fraud and trying to deceive her out of money. I mean, that's pretty bad. But Mark, you're right. And when I saw the Davis quote today, I felt what you just said a little bit. I said this is the start of it. They're going to cover for Clinton. They're going to cover for Clinton and go after the president.
Be careful of the fake news right now, guys, because the hotter this fire gets, the worse that's going to get for a little bit.
Absolutely.
So we all fall victim to some information or disinformation from the fake news sometimes, or sources that we can't vet. Guys, it's hard not to get caught up in it sometimes. I mean, I'm talking about me and you both. We've had stories where we've gotten that maybe not have been vetted the greatest, or we got sucked into that vortex a little bit. But you've got to guard against that right now. Make sure that your sources are vetted before you send some of this stuff out. But just watch the fake news right now. Don't believe everything you hear. And I get the emails constantly. Mark, we need to be praying. Yes, we do need to be praying. But it's like this. They go into this panic mode, Chris. And it's like, guys, how many times have we been here with this panic mode in this war? With Syria. Oh my gosh, World War III. With North Korea, World War III. It's always the World War III, or it's always the panic. Guys, we don't go from one doom to the next gloom. We go from faith to faith to faith.
That's right.
And so, look, God has brought us this far. He's not brought us this far to dump us on our hind ends right now. It's not going to happen. So, I mean, God's going to take care of Donald Trump. And so be careful falling into that and affecting your faith where you can't war effectively.
Without a doubt, buddy. Without a doubt. And again, I feel like you do. I feel excited. I feel that this was a start, a domino.
Yep.
And I think that, a lot of people look at this as the end. This is not the end. This is the beginning, folks.
The beginning.
And I'm not even sure if we're at the beginning. We may just be at the introduction. This might be just the time when you're eating your popcorn and all the commercials and all the previews are coming for future events and future shows. I think that it's big. And I heard a friend of mine, and it's on the interview prior to you tonight, that the NXIVM thing, Rainier, is connected. There's connections with this whole thing to the NXIVM cult that they've been taken down, they've been taken out. Yep. And, Mark, that is going to tie Gillibrand and some of these New York politicians. And while I'm at it, I thank the Lord for reminding me, one Andrew Cuomo, the abortion mayor or the abortion governor of New York, who cursed God when he did it, blasphemed God when he did it, signed that bill, and people were clapping at the murder of babies up to the 9th month, blaspheming God when they did it. His name's in that black book. And I'll ask you this question. Shocker. Me to you, though. If you're not affiliated with all this stuff and not complicit in it, why would Jeffrey Epstein be carrying your name around in his black book, which was not a dating book, but just a contact book that, look, you and I both know these billionaires. Not that we're billionaires. We wish we were. But what I'm saying, though, a billionaire like that's got a book, and he has somebody to call just like that. That reeks of somebody that knows if he gets himself into any trouble, he's got contacts to try to get him out. He's got people behind him. This whole network, Mark, that's the thing that's about to be exposed, man. And that's the exciting part to me. That it's not just him, but this whole network. Freaking network is about to go down.
That spider web is about to go down, brother. And look, I mean, you look at Epstein and you look at El Chapo. El Chapo he said verbatim that he was paying off government officials to be able to run drugs across the border down there. To run people across the border.
Without a doubt.
Whatever the case is. So, I mean, when he starts naming names, you figure these guys, Chris, have been committing treason. If they've been paid off by one of the biggest drug dealers globally to haul drugs in here, how much blood is on these people's hands, on these politicians' hands, all for the sake of money? Now, here's what you're going to find out with El Chapo, is that you're going to find there may be some ministries on that list.
I was about to ask you about that, but go ahead.
You're going to find out there's going to be some preachers on that list where they've been trafficking humans, they've been trafficking whatever the case is, getting illegals in here. Guys, they're breaking the law. It is a treasonous act to do that. They should be charged with treason. You have politicians down there right now on the border that were going down there on the border trying to bring illegals across the border.
Yeah.
That is a treasonous act. You're breaking the law, period. So don't be surprised if El Chapo starts naming a bunch of churches that they were using to filter drugs through or to filter people through.
Don't doubt that a bit, brother. And I was about to ask you about the church, and you took it out of my mouth before I did. I really believe, Mark, that this is going to reach into the spiritual realm, just like it's reached into the political and the entertainment industry and the rock music industry and all these industries. Look, this was a good day for the country. And I go back, I think that the seeds of this were planted Thursday. I think that speech by President Trump shook the heavens. It opened the heavens. And look, you know, I've got family, and I love them to death, and people have heard me say this on my show for the last week or so, and I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I do want to mention it again because it's important. And they're not Trump haters, but they're certainly not Trump fans, and they take a cynical approach to him many times. But one of the things they told me, and they said, well, we're not a big fan of turning July 4th into a political rally. And Mark, honestly, I listened to that speech, brother, and there was nothing political about that speech. It was about a country, America. We're going to talk about what patriotism means in a minute, a little bit more. But did you not take that away too? That was not about President Trump. That was about the spirit of this nation from the time that those colonists stood up to this tyrannical regime in Britain, trying to take away our guns, trying to take away our freedom of speech, trying to take away their right to worship, because he wanted the Church of England to be the object of their worship, not God, the God of heaven. And Mark, a bunch of farmers with rockets, with rocks, guns, and rifles, and a bunch of pitchforks took down one of the biggest armies in the world at that day. And you cannot tell me that we can't look back at our history and say, God was not in the founding of America. Give me a break. We are here because of his providence.
July 4th, well, like you said, something shifted July 4th. You had a lot. How many patriots did we have on the ground? Had their feet on the ground?
200,000. That's a professional estimate, and I would argue there may have been more.
No, it's got to be more than that. But the point being is there was a shift, like you said, July 4th on that speech. The flyovers were significant prophetically. You know, you had the speech prophetically, you know what I mean? The rain prophetically, and I think it was pretty, this shows you how smart the president is. The teleprompter goes down and he's still going on like nothing ever happened. I never guessed for a million years that the teleprompter went out. I thought he did a fantastic job, but as far as these people that are saying that it was a political thing, give me a break. This was the gathering of true patriots. This is what true unity is right here. This is not a false unity, Chris. Like you've got a lot of people in the church calling for unity, or this one world religion. That's a false unity right there, because they want to join everybody under one religion. It's all sake of unity and love. No, that's a false unity, guys. You have to understand the difference. But this unity that was there on the ground, you had patriots there, you had Christians there, you had people from all backgrounds, all faiths, and they were standing there, one heart, one mind, one accord. And now all of a sudden we got flooding in D.C. after this whole thing. I think we've crossed a mile marker, if you will, or a timeline in this whole war. We're getting prophetic signs of it right now. I'm trying to find the prophetic word here that I've got where it talks about, I think it's Operation Let My People Go here, where it talks about the Washington Monument being toppled. And so when I look at that article I read this morning where it talked about the three rings of power have come down, it talked about these obelisks that are there. The Washington Monument, there's one in London, there's one in the Vatican, there's also one in Paris. But these obelisks, what they represent, of course, we know they're phallic symbols to Baal. But this prophetic word talks about it falling. Well, that was what it talked about this morning, that these obelisks basically had fallen, so to speak. So that was part of this word. Now, people have asked me, do you feel like it's going to happen in the spiritual, like a metaphoric type thing, or is it going to happen in the physical? I believe it's probably going to be both.
Wow.
And we'll find out one day.
Yeah.
We'll find out. Now, here's the interesting part about the Washington Monument. I wrote the Commander-in-Chief Prophecy April 28th, 2011. Well, it was later in 2011 when it was damaged by an earthquake.
I remember that.
They stopped having visitors there because it had been damaged.
Exactly, because they still got the scaffolding around it right now.
Guys, it was a sign. It was an absolute sign. Now, that Operation Let My People Go was written July 8th, 2016. And so these are all signs, guys, 2011, they're saying 2000. This is what other thing I found astounding. I was reading up on this. 2011 was a very busy year, Chris. Now, April 28th, 2011 was when the Trump prophecy was written. It was a few months after that. Christchurch, New Zealand gets rocked with that huge earthquake that decimated it. Then, of course, now it's coming out now that's when this Revolutionary War actually started. Because who was the good guys, the White Hats, had intercepted nukes and this, that, and the other that were going to go to New York and all these different places. It was going to be a false flag. They were saying that 2011, like around August or October, was actually the start of this Revolutionary War. I find that interesting that this is all starting 4 months after this prophecy was written. I mean, could it be that this is what set off the course of events? I don't know. Could be, maybe not. I'll leave it up to the viewers. But I mean, but this is the power behind the prophetic. This is the power behind what God is doing right now. And so this is what people have to understand. We are in World War III right now. This is the Revolutionary War. It's a covert war, but it's an information war. And so, I mean, look, we're going to win this thing. We're already winning. We're going to be victorious, but there's going to be some hiccups along the way, which there always is on the battleground. But the main thing is stay in faith through this whole thing. Yeah. That's the main thing. But this is exciting right now, Chris. I mean, I'm overjoyed because to me, this is the door that God's kicked open to release the floodgates. We've got the sign in D.C. happening right now with this Epstein thing, the El Chapo thing going on. This is the floodgates, guys. Don't get just sucked into thinking it's just about Epstein. Don't forget about El Chapo. You're not hearing a lot about El Chapo right now. Why is that? They're keeping it awfully quiet, don't you think, brother? I mean, could El Chapo have been paying off some of these news media people?
Absolutely.
Who knows? I don't know. Could be. Well, but he's naming names. He's singing like a bird right now.
Well, I did hear there was news people on that list too. I did. I heard that.
Well, there you go.
MSNBC people, big name people. Is it Zuckerberg? Not Zuckerberg's Facebook. Zucker, the guy from CNN.
Yeah.
His name popped up. And Mark, look, you got to have cover. These kind of operations, brother. Look, the media. You have to have media cover because it would crumble like a deck of cards in a second if the media had not been complicit in this, because true journalism would have been able to get in there and somebody, without being intimidated, would have been in there and told the truth. Look, when you've got journalists like Cheryl Atkinson got out there saying that everything she was being told by CBS was filtered, that she couldn't go out and say certain things about Obama and say certain things about the Benghazi thing and certain things about Fast and Furious and other crimes of the Obama administration. And if Joe Biden just happens to be listening tonight to the Mac and Mark show on Monday night, Joe, I don't know what you're smoking, but you might need to stay off of it to be out there with a straight face telling the American public that there was zero scandals during the Obama administration. Look, we wouldn't have enough fingers and toes in this chat room to list the number of scandals with the Obama administration. It's ridiculous. It's criminal. It wasn't just scandals, Mark. This is criminality. This is criminality. This is treasonous stuff that was designed. It was designed to take down America off the national stage of the world and let the global elites take over. And I'm going to tell you what would have happened. We would no longer been the United States of America. Right. We would have been the United States of Mexico, Europe, the Vatican, and the United States of God knows what else. Yep. And Hillary Clinton would have been running the flag saying, I did what you told me to do after Obama got out.
Well, first off, CNN would be out of business right now if they didn't have the contracts for the airports. I'm a firm believer that's the only reason these guys are even in business right now. Otherwise, they'd be toast right now.
Absolutely.
Why somebody hasn't bought that contract out yet, I don't know. But I mean, as far as Biden is concerned, and all these elites that have been in there for 30 years, why do you think they've been in there for 30 years, guys? This is why. Biden's up there running like, oh, I'm going to change this, change that. You've had 30 years to change things. You haven't changed anything. It's because you're part of this integrated network, and this intertwined network, this spider web, if you will, because they're getting paid for the drugs coming across. They're getting paid for the people coming across. They're getting paid selling secrets, like Hillary's done to China. All these things. So I mean, it's just time for cleansing, man. And the cleansing's here. Justice is here, Chris. This is part of the justice phase. And again, if you don't have a stomach for justice, you better get it, because some of this is going to get nasty. And it's just like they're taking down some of these sites right now that they're reporting on right now, even though it could be creating an earthquake somewhere. I don't know what to tell you. It's got to happen. It's got to happen.
I'm glad you mentioned ugly. I'm not going to take a long time to talk about this, but I do want to say something the Lord spoke to me in D.C. about. It was final night I was there. It was Friday night, and it was hot. People were just packed in like sardines still. Even after the speech, I went to the Lincoln Memorial, and I went into the hallway and looked up at Lincoln, took several pictures, did a few broadcasts from there. And as I was sitting there, Mark, I felt the Lord say something to me, and it was pretty profound. And I knew it was Him. I did. I started weeping, felt the Spirit of God come on me, and I mean, you know how it is. Sometimes there's times when there's words I'm sure that you get that you're pretty sure it was God, and then there's times that you put your life, your family, everything that you own on that table and say, this was God. This was God. And I do believe this was a God moment in D.C., and he spoke to me this way. He said, I want you to look at that statue of Lincoln. He said, what would happen if Abraham Lincoln was here tonight, looking out over this country and seeing the division that is being caused right now by the enemy? Would he fight another civil war in 2019 to preserve the Union that he was willing to fight in 61 to preserve the Union then? And I couldn't help but answer yes, because we're divided the same way. We're not North and South, but we're elite, globalist, left, those that hate America, those that don't care for our country, and patriots. It's not about Republican and Democrat, because there's a lot of the American haters that are Republican. Right. There's a lot of American haters that have an R by their name. Yep. This is about those that care for the country and those that don't. You can call it right or left, cabal, elite, regular folks, or whatever the name, but this is my point. The Lord spoke something else to me. He said there may be a civil war that has to be fought to preserve the Union, just like there was to preserve the Union in 1800 under Lincoln. And he said, he almost quoted you, it's going to get ugly. It's going to get a fight. It's going to be something that's not many people are going to be able to handle. And it doesn't mean that we're saying tonight that there's going to be guns and bullets and things shot like that. That's not what I'm saying. But Mark, at the very minimum, there's a spiritual civil war going on right now.
Right.
We're already in that civil war that's being fought. Are we not?
We've been in it. And so this is a different type of civil war. Just like I was saying earlier, this is a covert war. This is an information war, a techno war. Underground war that we're seeing going on with the tunnels. So this is something that people aren't really seeing right now, which is why we have so many people blind right now and spiritually deaf right now. I'm glad you brought that up, because you're talking about people that represent America. We got left and right, call it what you want. But you've also got the church that comes in here.
Absolutely.
You've got the deep state church. You got the cabal church. And people, don't give me your emails saying that, that you're saying these people belong to the cabal. Yes, they do.
Yeah, they do.
Bottom line is they do. You've got people out there that are representing the church right now, or church people, but yet they're in covenant with George Soros, or the Southern Baptist Convention, like we've talked about, is horrific right now. They're trying to cover up a bunch of stuff. They're trying to figure out how do we deal with the sexual abuse stuff. This is not even the beginning, like you talked about. It's not even the warm up for that stuff that's coming out. So, I mean, you've got these elites that are sitting behind the pulpits. With the clergy response team we've talked about 100 times. These are people that wanted to take your guns. These are our clergy, that pastors that wanted to put you in a containment camp, under the Obama administration. And the list is out there. Who's got it? I don't know. I wish I had access to it. But I mean, look at all these things. That alone right there, Chris, is a treasonous act.
Absolutely.
From these pastors.
Absolutely.
It's treason, period. So if you guys want to go out there and they say, well, we're supposed to turn the other cheek, or we're supposed to be politically correct, it's supposed to be in love. Guys, you don't sacrifice the country and you don't sacrifice people just to keep the peace. You know what I mean? There's times, like the Bible says, there's times to go to war, there's time for peace. There's a time for crying, a time for laughing. Look, right now, this is a war we're in. We're at war. This is at war, not just for America. This is at war. This civil war is global. This is a world war. So I'll go beyond saying it's a civil war. It's a global world war that we're at, but it's a different type of war. I want people to understand this.
Good, Mark.
And so because it's covert, because it's underground, some of this is underground, some of it's covert, is that this is why people have a hard time seeing what's going on, Chris. If it was an overt war,
excellent point,
where we were actually had battlegrounds like we did in the original Civil War, their eyes would be open real quick. Real quick. And see, this is where I believe the part with Epstein, with all these things, with El Chapo, when all this information comes out, that's the battleground that will begin to open the eyes and ears of people, and they'll be getting red-pilled to be able to see what's actually been going on in this country for decades, or globally for decades and decades, guys. We're dealing with an ancient, old, Babylonian spirits that we've been dealing with that have been roaming the earth, controlling the earth, and they're coming down. That's the bottom line. People can argue with me all they want. It's coming down, Chris.
And Mark, let me just say this. Those kind of spirits are not, and I know this, not to be funny about this, these are not garden variety demons. These are principalities and powers that have been over world empires, over entire empires and nations, not just nations even, but empires for centuries. And the kind of prayer and the kind of intercession that requires on behalf of the church, the true church, is deep. And that is where our battleground is being drawn. That's the other war. It's a war that we're fighting in the spiritual realm. Because, look, it's basically the power of light. It's like our friend Sheila Holmes says, the kingdom of light versus the kingdom of darkness. And really, when you get down to it, that's the elementary battle. I know we want to complicate it, but when we get down to it, it's basically the good guys versus the bad guys, but it's basically light and darkness. And the light can only win through intercessory prayer, Mark, and through prophetic declarations in the heavenlies. And I have to tell you again, brother, I believe President Trump, without even knowing it, and maybe he did know it, I think he made one Thursday. I think that, and I tell you something else. I don't know. We talked a little bit about it last week, but I'm going to mention it again. The North Korea thing was prophetic. Look, it was just 17 steps, and the Lord asked me a question. He said, "Look at that number." And I said, 17. He said, "Get a brain. Look at the number. Think about it. 7 and 1. That's 8. That's a number of God. But 7 times 1 is a number. It's God's completion number. 8 being the fulfillment, 7 being complete." And Mark, I believe that those 17 steps that our president took into North Korea was a prophetic foreshadowing of the gospel and the light and the power of God behind Trump, President Trump being the proxy, but being a foreshadowing of the church going into North Korea next with the gospel and the light.
Well, but see, I like this meme that's been floating around on Twitter, and it shows 3 prior presidents with binoculars looking across the DMZ in the North Korea, and behind bulletproof glass, and 3 prior presidents now, and then all of a sudden the next meme you see is Trump walking across the DMZ with Kim Jong-un, putting his feet on that soil. What's the Bible talk about putting your feet on soil? I will give you everywhere your foot treads. He put his feet on that soil. Now, I want to bring something else up here. You may have realized this, maybe you didn't. God spoke to you and told you to go to D.C. He also told you to stay an extra day.
He did.
Which you did. He said, "I'm going to show you something." Which he did. You put your feet on that soil, brother. It's not coincidence that God used you and about 200,000 other people, and then now all of a sudden they got floods?
That's right.
I'll bring up another issue. I talked about the prophetic word. What happened in 2011? It started off a chain of events. It started off a chain of events with you. Melissa Leggett, my head intercessor, our good friend, has been on here many times.
Yes.
She lives in California. I'm not going to say where, but where this earthquake took place, Melissa has actually put her feet.
Wow.
Has actually put her feet on that soil.
Wow.
She left California to take a few days off. The earthquakes struck. Okay? God is moving powerfully right now through his people, guys. You guys may dismiss this, and I'm sure right-wing watch will be all over this, and so, you can dismiss this all you want. But the bottom line is God is moving through his people powerfully right now. Where you put your feet is very important. What you say, what you speak, what you decree is important, guys. This is why we've got to stay in faith right now. We're coming to a crescendo in this war. So God is using people powerfully. He used you. He's used me. He's used Melissa. He's used thousands of others across this nation that may never even hear about. But the point being is God is using people right now, so don't dismiss it.
Oh, absolutely, buddy.
Stay engaged in the fight.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because, and I don't want to get in all the nuts and bolts of this, but Sheila Holm called me on the phone, talked to me on going to D.C.
Right.
She just said, look, I don't know what your plans are. She said, but the Lord, I believe, is telling me to tell you, don't be in a hurry to get back, that there's something Friday there. There's something, that extra day, there's something he wants to talk to you about or see, whatever. And brother, you know, it's funny, I had a lot of people, and I appreciate the concern. I do appreciate the concern. But, you know, there was a lot of fear about the attacks and the Antifa acid and all that. And, Mark, I never one time worried about that stuff. Look, I don't go in fear. I went in faith. I don't go with sight. I go by faith. We don't walk by sight. We walk by faith. And I just jokingly told people, I said, look, I got angels around me. I'm not worried about it. Look, it's my time to go. It's my time to go. And God bless you, Mark, and have the Monday night M&M show. Yeah, he'll do it by himself. If that's the case, if the Lord wants to take me home, I mean, that's the Lord's business, not Chris's. But going back to being something serious, I believe, again, that is happening, and that happened with President Trump in North Korea, Mark. I believe that shook the ground at North Korea and the heavenlies over that nation.
Yep.
And that's powerful.
And not just that nation did it shake,
but
it shook other nations because it was a sign saying, we're coming.
Absolutely. That's a great thing. And not fearing and not being a wuss and sitting behind glass with binoculars as if, you know, God forbid, you try to go in there and make a difference as a president in a nation that has been shut off from the gospel for half a century. I mean, goodness. It's
but see, here's another example of not only were these past presidents a wuss, but they were traitors to our country. We're finding that out now.
Absolutely.
Traitors. And this is the difference. They were told what to do, Chris. They're just figureheads. They were told what to do. This is another shining example of the fact that this president got courage, the boldness of a lion, number one, but number two, he's not told what to do.
That's right.
The cabal's not controlling him.
I love it.
How people cannot see that is beyond me. This is what happens when you have a leader that's not being dictated by the cabal or the deep state. You get stuff done.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Mark, we got about 15 minutes. I could stay on this all night, but I do want to talk to you about something else that really bothered me. And I know it bothered you too. And I think in a way it's tied into this a little bit because what's happening in our nation right now, this war between good and evil, light and darkness, those that hate America, those that care about America, is trickling into the sports realm. It's two stories, and we've not talked about one of them, and we're going to talk about both of them real quickly here. The Nike situation, bowing down to this traitorous, ignorant, classless, and talentless quarterback that hadn't played in the NFL for 4 years now because he couldn't make the grade, got cut, sit on the bench.
Now he's selling shoes.
And basically, because he didn't like the Betsy Ross flag, they yanked these patriotic shoes off their market, which that was the end of Nike. Goodbye, see you later. There was a meme that I posted today, and I thought it was funny. It said, rest in peace, Nike, 1964 to 2019 because of colon cancer, C-O-L-I. That's about the truth of it.
Well, but see, what you have to understand is what people don't understand is that why is Nike here? What is the name Nike? Nike is another name for Baal.
Exactly.
Baal is the god of 1,000 faces, 1,000 names. Why? Because he doesn't want to be found. He's hidden in plain sight, guys. This is why I don't wear Columbia sports clothing. This is why I don't drive Mazda cars. All these different names are the names of Baal. So they got there by selling their soul literally to the devil. Nike did. So what's happening right now? At this point, Nike's starting to fall apart. The devil's coming back for his dues, kind of like the church system right now. They're coming back for their dues. This is why they're being persecuted at this point. So, I mean, I don't feel sorry for Nike. I really don't. So go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you can interrupt me anytime. That's fine. I was just going to add something to what you just said. Not only are they losers, Mark, but the same media that is applauding Kaepernick for basically campaigning against America, they'll not say a word about the slave shops where Nike shoes are made. Yeah. If you get back down to where these shoes are made, they're made in basically factories overseas where people are paid maybe $1 on the hour, if that, slave labor. This empire, and this idiot is out there campaigning, claiming that the police are brutal here in America. It was never about police brutality. It's about he hates America.
That, and he's been mind controlled probably.
And he's been mind controlled. But the other part of this that ties into this, and it gets back into the sports realm, is our ladies' women's soccer team.
Yep.
And I reluctantly, and I think President Trump did too. I have to tell you, I know he posted congratulations for him, but I know deep down in his heart it had to bother him. It did. It would have bothered me as president.
Right.
And I would have probably talked to about 50 people before I did it, and he said, do you think this is a good idea? Because in a way, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have even congratulated him. Because of their attitude overseas and based upon them representing our country, and then throwing the flag on the ground at the end of the celebration when they won the cup, and this Mona, whatever her name is, Capone or whatever her name is, that used the F word when she was asked, are you going to go to the White House if called? She says, we're not effing going to the White House. I wouldn't go in a million years. Disrespecting the country, disrespecting her team, disrespecting herself, disrespecting President Trump, and Mark, again, blaspheming God in doing it. If you don't like America, then take that jersey off, because I'm going to tell you this, brother, the name on the front of that jersey is a heck of a lot more important than the name on the back.
That's a fact.
Don't want to play for the US of A, take it off and go play ping pong somewhere in China where you are happy.
Well, first off, if you don't have an allegiance to the flag or the country, you got no business even representing the country.
You don't.
Period.
You don't.
I'm sorry. People can disagree with me all you want to. Why were they even on that team?
Exactly.
Who put them on the team?
That's a good point.
If you don't have an allegiance to the flag, or you want to desecrate the flag like she did, or speak ill will of the president, or whatever it is, you may not respect the person, but you respect the office. You know what I mean? You didn't hear me out there when Obama was in there going, you F this or F that with the president or this, that, and the other. Exactly. You may not respect the person, but you got to respect the office. It's no different than in a rank. You may not respect the person, but you have to respect the rank. But these people nowadays, because of the mind control, because of everything that's been going on through the television, through media, whatever it is, I mean, the fake news, they're so bought and paid for. As far as the mind control goes, it's just incredible. But they have no business representing the country. So whoever put them on the team is the one I would be looking to. Yeah. And so I'm tired of these sports figures. They get paid millions of dollars to play a game. Absolutely. Literally play a game, but yet you want to trash America. If America's so bad, then give back the money that you just made because the opportunities that America just gave you. That's right, Mark. You know what I mean? I mean, give me a break. I mean, look, and you got people like Nike, Bale, who are going to offer these people, they're for sports ads and this, that, and the other, and they're going to make millions of dollars off of it. You know what I mean? You and I both know that. That's the way it works. And so, but yet, the very country that affords them the opportunities to do all this is the very country they're trying to tear down. So if you don't like this, get out. Get out. That's the way I look at it. And I'm still waiting for all these movie stars. When Bush got in office, they said they were going to move. That never moved. They said they were going to leave America because Bush was going. If Bush got in office, 43, they're still here. Still here. All these movie stars. Barbra Streisand was one. I think Alec Baldwin was one. I mean, all these guys are still here. They said the same thing when Trump was here. They're all still here. Well, if America's so bad, pick up and leave, guys. It's very simple. Nothing hard. But you don't have a right, as far as I'm concerned, to represent our country. We love the flag. We love our country. We have fought. People have fought and died for this country, and you want to go out here to give you that right to desecrate this country or desecrate the flag. So I would be looking at the people who put them on the team. They got no business even being on there. It's a great point again. And that's a good question. And I'm not looking into that. That's a great because I bet you the sponsors. If you go back and start digging around, figuring out who's sponsoring, putting money behind it, I guarantee you probably find some ties that might not be the best. And Mark, I hate this in a way, just man to man, friend to friend. I love sports. I don't worship sports, but I love it. I love baseball. I love football. I love the sport. I'm a man, and I watch this thing, and I watch the football. I watch the NFL go down because of this disrespect of the country. The NBA, and again, if it was Chris and I was commissioner over these leagues, okay. It would be mandatory before you signed a professional contract that you agreed that there would be no displays against America, no anti-protest, and if you're invited to the White House, I don't care if you have effigies of President Trump hung up in your garage and you burn them every day, you're going to go to that White House and keep your mouth shut out of respect for your country. Out of respect.
Out of respect.
Yep. Yep.
And if you don't go, you're off the team. You don't play for me.
That shows you who's in control of some of these teams.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Where the money's coming from. Who's putting them in there. There's a reason, because they're trying to, once again, it's no different than Hollywood. Think of it as another Hollywood production. These guys like Kaepernick. They're bought and paid for by certain individuals. They're told what to do because they're trying to mind control the kids. They're trying to, because kids look at them as a hero. Where that ever came from, Chris, I'm not even going to get started on that, because I put my life on the line for 20 plus years, and guys in the military have given their lives, and you want to call someone who plays a sports and gets millions of dollars for playing one game, he makes more in one game than I did in an entire year, or the military makes an entire year, and you want to gripe and moan about what America is doing, or you want to gripe and moan about, whatever their complaints are at the time, like Kaepernick, I don't get it. So they've put them in a position of a heroship or idolatry, if you will, and that was their goal, and they have succeeded.
They have succeeded, Mark.
They have succeeded.
Again, we're worshiping these people as gods, and it's a tragedy, it's a travesty, and I think that's one reason God's judging it. I think God is bringing judgment on these sports leagues. Look, Major League Baseball attendance, record low. NFL attendance, record low. NBA attendance, record low.
Church attendance, record low.
Record low. It's judgment on all these systems.
All the systems.
People are fleeing them, and again, it's you don't have to. I don't worship anybody except Christ. I love the sports, but I've had to back off myself, and it pains me because I miss it. It's enjoyment, but I'm not going to attach myself to things that desecrate our country and disrespect the flag and disrespect and blaspheme God.
Stop supporting these people, man.
Got to stop supporting it.
Stop supporting them.
And that's another thing I meant to mention. Hollywood's down. Let me tell you why they're making all these remakes, Mark. They can't get people out to the theater because they got nothing to show them. Nothing new. It's all remake. They're taking 30, 40-year-old movies and recycling them and begging people to come out. And it's all about injustice. It's all about the social justice thing. I'll just use one quick example. The Ghostbuster franchise that had Bill Murray and Ramis and Aykroyd in the 80s, and it was a great flick. I loved it. I was a high school senior when that movie came out. They remake this thing 30 years later with 3 women. And women, please, we're not being sexist or misogynist here, but hear me out what I'm trying to get across. They remake it not to make the movie better, but you know what? I heard the reason they did that was to appeal to the social justice people in Hollywood that we've got to make it that, women are not discriminated against. So we're going to make the Ghostbusters women. It flopped. It flopped. It flopped. The whole Hollywood cabal, and our friend Liz Crokin could speak to this, I'm sure, and Fitzhenry and a few other people we've had on about Hollywood, Matthew Valentinas. Mark, that is so reeking right now with so much pedophilia and dastardly darkness. God is judging that as well, and it's always the pocketbook that God targets when he starts bringing judgment on something.
Well, it's Hollywood, it's the church system. You've got the Christian music industry that's corrupt. You got the Christian television movie or industry that's corrupt. I'm not saying all of it. We're not labeling everybody, just like the sports figures. I feel bad for those like in the sports who are in Hollywood.
I do too.
Who are legit, who are straight, who are part of these things and are trying to make a go of it, or in the music industry are trying to make a go of it, because you've always got these people that have infiltrated through the leftist ideology or that have put them in there, people like Soros who have purposely infiltrated this stuff and are taking it down, who have contaminated it to the point to where it's no longer pure. It's no longer anything, and it makes those who are truly righteous look bad. It makes it hard for them. It's the same thing with the church. They've infiltrated the church to a point in the seminaries to where it's all corrupt at this point. You know what I mean? Anything to do with the system's corrupt. So even though we've got good people in there, it's making it very hard for these good people to even have a true church service. So we can go down that road, but it's in every aspect of life, every part of the system. It doesn't matter who or what it is, guys. God's cleaning it out. He's exposing it. This is all part of it.
Just me to you, if you're President Trump, do you rescind the invitation to these girls?
Again, there's probably some girls on there that are probably good girls that want nothing to do with it. As far as not wanting anything to do with, they love America. In other words,
exactly.
They're on the other side. They're on the right side. And so, do you punish all of them because of a few? I don't know. I'd have to look at it and say, okay, how many of you guys don't like the flag? How many of you don't like America? If it was 100% of them, I say, forget it. I'm not going to waste my time. If it was, and say, look, here's an invitation. Those who want to show up, you're welcome to show up. Here's your invitation, and you'll find out real quick where their loyalties lie.
I'll agree with that.
By who's going to show up.
Well, it's just like what happened with Boston and the manager. The manager of the team didn't go to the White House last fall with the World Series, and I would look at the coach, and it's all about leadership. Mark, we talked
That's
about
where it starts.
It's all about leadership, and these managers and these owners need to put their foot down. And if they'll put their foot down, this stuff will stop.
Kind of reminds you of some pastors, don't it?
Yeah. A lot of pastors.
Let's don't put our foots down because we don't want to offend anybody. To hurt our tithes and offerings, or money coming in, or sponsors. Anyway,
buddy, our time is flown again. I'm going to take you 2 minutes, wrap us up, have a word of prayer with us. Good to have you again tonight. It's been a power packed night. It's going to be this is shaking the heavenlies too tonight. What we've been talking about. Yep. And I just feel more's coming, brother.
Oh yeah, more's coming. This doesn't even scratch the surface of what's coming. It's exciting right now. Stay in faith. Don't go from one doom to the next gloom. You know what I mean? And panic, because there's some things going to get rocky a little bit. But this is literally the start of opening the floodgates. God's given us signs. So just stay positive, guys. Stay positive. Stay in the fight.
Have a word of prayer with us, buddy. Good to have you tonight on the Monday Mac and Mark's Spiritual Smackdown. It's been great, buddy. Have a word of prayer over our country, buddy.
I will, man. So, Father, in the name of Jesus, Lord, we just thank you, Lord, for what this country is. Thank you where you're taking us, Lord. We love this country. We bless this country. We bless President Trump right now, Lord. Father, we just ask that you would clean out any and all corruption. We thank you for the signs that you're giving us right now, Lord, especially this flooding in D.C. right now, cleansing the old and bringing in the new, Lord. Lord, we just pray that we decree and declare that time is up for those who are corrupt right now. And we just pray for the people's spiritual eyes and ears to be open to what you're doing on this earth right now, Lord. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
Amen and amen. Mark, I do want to keep you over for 2 minutes real quick. Tell everybody about your invention that you've got, where they can find it on the internet, because I want people to check it out, and I've been promoting it. But tell everybody real quick what you and your partners have done, because this really helps the first responders, the firemen out there, the border agents, people like that. Tell us a little bit about the sword and rescue thing that you got going on.
It's a Special Operations Recovery Drag, which is where SWORD came from, SORD, and it's at sword.us. It's an invention used to rescue people out of a hot zone. It could be military, law enforcement, fire service. I got veterinarians using it. I got animal rescue people using it. They can go to the website and they can see videos on it, how it's used. Just use your imagination. I got people inside their own homes that have a senior citizen that live there, like a mom and dad. If they fall, they can help them get up, because that way you don't break bones. It's safer for them. It's a really unique product. I don't take any glory for it. I give it all to the Lord Jesus. It's all on Him. It's His product as far as I'm concerned. But they can go there and get more information on it. They can go to swordrescue.com to look at the prophetic words. If you don't mind me addressing something on that real quick, I'm getting a lot of emails. I've redone the website a little bit. I've got huge buttons on there now, guys. I'm only one person. So when you send me an email, there's a lot of stuff that's answered right there on the homepage. If they just click on it, it'll answer a lot of questions right there. I've got a new 501c3 information page they can click on. The national prayer calls, if they want to be a part of the national prayer calls, are right there, Strike Force of Prayer or Rocking the West Coast Prayer Group. And then I've also got the home congregation button. All they got to do is click on it. It'll take them straight to that to show them how to start a home congregation. So I get emails all the time. Where can I find a non-501c3 church, or is there a non-501c3 church in my little hometown of such and such, Iowa or Indiana? I was like, guys, I don't know. You have to physically call these places and ask them. You have to do the research on your own to find out what's not a 501c3. But if you're looking for the information, what a 501c3 is, it's all on the website. So before you fire off a question, help me out and please navigate some of that, because I'm just getting bombarded with the same questions over and over again. That's answered right there, and I'm only one guy. I can't handle all this. So, and
that's fair enough, buddy. That's fair. I mean, I think that's a fair request. People, we're adults and we're not teenagers, and go to the website and get it. But I wanted you to talk about it, and look, we on the McFiles, we support this, and we hope you'll get behind it and pass the word around. And I know I've sent your website to a few folks we talked about. I'm praying that they'll respond to you, but we just appreciate you, buddy. We really do. You are truly my brother from another mother, and it's always good when you get on the show. And I'm enjoying these Monday nights, and Mark will be back next Monday night. And tonight there was just something. I sense a release. I do. I sense a release of glory upon this nation right now. And, and again, I know there's still things to come, right. But I do believe we crossed the threshold Saturday night over this weekend, over this 4th of July season in America. There
was a timeline we crossed in the prophetic timeline. Absolutely. So, well, thank you for having me on, brother. It's always an honor to be on here on these Monday nights of Mac and Mark and the Spiritual Smackdown here.
Absolutely, buddy. Absolutely. And we've been talking with the one and only Prophet Mark Taylor here on the McFiles. And again, he'll be back next Monday night. God bless you out there. God bless your families. God bless this great nation of America. Pray for President Trump. Pray for Prophet Mark Taylor. And yes, pray for Chris McDonald. He could use it as well. And we'll be back with a final thought after this. Mark Taylor, thank you, buddy. Till next week.
Thank you for having me, brother. It's an honor to be here.
Always an honor too, buddy.
You've been listening to the McFiles. Follow Chris on Twitter at ChrisMC44.